Right, so I wanted to go over briefly how I set up my malware lab in order to do the labs in Practical Malware Analysis textbook. First thing you do is you can get the labs from the book website. They come down in a zip, and I keep the zip on a thumb drive. And then when I want to do the labs, I shared the thumb drive with the virtual machine where I'm looking at the malware, and I extract it there. For the virtual machine where I play with the malware and essentially set it off, I'm using a Windows 7 VM. The book recommends using in Windows XP VM, but I was having issues getting all the tools on Windows XP. For the other machine I use Ubuntu 12.04 right here. And I do this because the purpose of the other machine is to run the iNet simulator on it, and it is recommended to use Ubuntu 12.04 with it. And so I get that from this website. Now, next, the hypervisor I'm using is VirtualBox. It's free. You can see I'm running the Ubuntu and the Windows 7 virtual machines. First, before you try to connect these virtual machines on like an internal network, I would recommend setting up the Windows virtual machine on a NAT or a bridge network setting so that you can download the tools. You can see that I already have them already down here, but you need to do that before and then stop the VM and then start it again. With this setting, which I have right now, is internal network, and I have the name Malware Lab. What you have to do for VirtualBox is internal network is a network that's between virtual machines, and that's it. And so it's pretty easy to do. The only thing you need to change is you need to run this command right here with vbox manage, and what this does is just create a DHCP server with the IP range that you specify and a network name that you specify, essentially, so that whenever you do start up your machines over an internal network, they can get IP addresses and thus talk to each other. You only have to run this command once, not every time you start up your machines or start up VirtualBox. So once you have that network name will show up right here. That's why we have MalLab. It's set to internal network. It's the exact same setting on Ubuntu, and then you can start both of the VMs up. And so right in the background here, you can see the Windows machine I have, and you can see that it has a 10.10.2 IP address, which is within our range. And then I'll pull over the Ubuntu machine, and looking at that, we have a 10.10.10.3 IP, also in the range. I just did a ping right here. You can do a ping. I'm pinging the Ubuntu machine from the Windows machine, and so you can see we have a successful ping. So now we have our internal network set up. And then lastly, what I wanted to go over is setting up iNetSim on the Ubuntu machine. Essentially, when you start running malware, you will use a tool on the Windows machine called a paid DNS, which is this right here. And you can essentially, with this field right here, reroute all domain names and everything to your Ubuntu machine with the iNet simulator on there. And the point of this is that the iNet simulator can run all services that you would possibly need, and thus you could view the interactions and record all that. The only changes you need to make with iNetSim is once, of course, you have it installed, you need to get to the configuration file, which is in etc iNetSim. And so right here, looking at the configuration file, we need to change within the service bind address. It will come default with the bind address as 127.0.0.1, which is loopback, and that won't work. And so this white line here, you have to uncomment it and then fill in the IP address that the DHCP server gives your Ubuntu machine. And so again, the IP address we're given up here is 10.10.10.3, and we go back into the configuration file and we see that the bind address is set to 10.10.10.3. And so after this, you can just run the iNet simulator and it will correctly receive all your traffic from your Windows machine, assuming you have AP DNS up and running. And lastly, once you get all your tools set up as well as INET Sim set up, it's a good idea to take a snapshot of both your Windows and your Ubuntu machines, especially with all the tools you have set up as before you start looking at malware, just for whatever reason if something happens. Alright.